Long ago, in the valley of Alwani, two little bear cubs went down to the river for a swim. They paddled and splashed about to their heart's content. When they returned to shore, they climbed upon a great rock by the water. They laid down in the warm sunshine to dry themselves, and they fell asleep. They slept so deeply they did not wake up. For many sleeps and moons and snows, both winter and summer, they slumbered on. Meanwhile, the great rock on which they slept slowly began to rise. It rose and rose both day and night, until soon the bear cubs were lifted far out of reach and voice from their bird and animal friends below. They were lifted high, high up into the blue heavens, so far up that they scraped their faces against the moon, but still they slept soundly, safe among the clouds. The bird and animal people of Alwani missed the little cubs, and they cried for them. One day they assembled in the valley in hopes of retrieving them from the top of the great rock. One at a time, they each sprung up as best and far as they could jump. First, the mouse jumped. He could only reach one breadth of a hand. Then, the rat tried. 2 hand breadths. The raccoon, only just a little bit further. Finally, the grizzly bear made a mighty leap far up the wall. But he too fell back in vain, just like the others. The mountain lion tried, and he jumped higher, much, much higher than any other animal could even see, only to fall back. Then along came Tu-tok-a-nu, the measuring worm. Slowly, he began to inch his way up, creeping up the great rock. Inch by inch and step by step, he measured his way up until he was past the mountain lion's jump and far out of sight. He inched all the way for many sleeps and one whole snow until he reached the top. There he picked up the 2 little bears, and just as he went up, he brought them safely down to the bottom of the valley. Once he brought them back, the great rock, which grew all the way up into the blue heavens, was called Tu-tok-a-nu in honor of Tu-tok-a-nu, the measuring worm. Again he ascended to the top of the rock, and he looked out over the valley of Alwani. He leaned so far that he stretched to the other side of the canyon, with his head on one side and his tail on the other. Then he stretched to the south rim of the canyon and all the way back to where he came, and ascended down to the bottom of the valley again. In that way, the rocks of the canyon began to crumble, and all of the birds and the animals of Alwani had to flee down the river. Back then, the valley was much narrower and slightly deeper than it is today. The crumbling of the canyon made all the rock and all the piles of the earth that you see today.